Good evening, YouTube. I am up at the shop. We are here to chat about the Corvette real quickly and see what Mark is doing to it. Mark is up here helping me out, which is awesome. I told him if he helped keep my cars together for the season and basically helped keep them running, because I'm always so busy or never around, I can't do it. So I wouldn't really get to drive if I didn't get some help with the cars sometimes. Although now my cars are so stock, it's actually not that hard to keep them together a lot of the time. I would take him to Japan this year. So I get some of his mechanical expertise and he's gonna get a trip to Japan, which is exciting. So here we are. We're up here with the Corvette tonight. And we're gonna talk about it for just a few minutes and then I'm gonna tell you what we're doing to it. So what's special about the Corvette and why I have it is because it's an excellent drift car after a few basic modifications. I absolutely love this car. It is really cool. It's cool on the street. It's cool at the track. It literally took us 2 days to take it from not a drift car and turn it into a full drift car, which is amazing, because if you do that on like a 240SX and try and make like a 400 horsepower 240SX, that is a disaster. 240SXs work super well and everything, but obviously this is built much more like an LS1 car from the factory with all the parts you need, cool transmission in the back, all that stuff. So it's a really cool car. So the big problems we have had is they're notorious for running really hot during like traffic or any other time, and then when you get them on track, they get really hot. So they run about, I think, like 220 degrees just sitting around. It's probably for emissions purposes, but that's way too hot once, the needle starts creeping up. You're already at 230 if the thing starts getting warm, and overheating at all, which is kind of a disaster. So we're finally putting a radiator in it almost at the end of the year. So that was probably the first thing I should have done besides, cut knuckles and everything. But we're finally taking care of it. And it'll probably function a lot better once it's not full of grass. We couldn't really see the grass because it had the intake stuff on top of it. But with all that out of the way, we can see it's currently getting a bigger radiator too. So let's chat about why this car was needing some type of update video. First of all, the car went out to a play day where we tested it, and then round 1, 2, and 3 of Lone Star Drift. It did a private day at a kart track, and then on round 4, I was having problems with it going into limp mode. We changed a bunch of things from the throttle body, the foot pedal, because the ECU was telling us to change those things. Then we did some grounds. We took it to a tuner who did some things, changing ECU. None of those things were actually what was wrong. We also changed the wiring harness out, the engine wiring harness, for a brand new harness from GM, thinking that would fix it. Turns out after all that, I had someone that diagnosed it. It was just the ABS plug was not fully seated, which was taking out the CAN bus loop and basically making the car a disaster. The car would run sometimes, and as that connector would jiggle around because it wasn't fully seated, the car would basically turn off. And then you would turn it back on and the car would work. Sometimes it wouldn't. Basically a disaster. But that is sorted, and now the car runs. I also, in that time period, took it up to Oklahoma. So it's done about, I'd say maybe 10 days of drifting. And then it was down for a significant portion of the season because I went to Africa for a month, and Poland and Japan for a month, and all these places. And I'd been driving the 350s or the 370Z and the Mustang a bit, and I got a new V8 S14, so I was having fun with that. And the Corvette just kind of got pushed to the side. And I was driving on the street and stuff at some points, and it was reliable for that, but I don't really typically daily the thing a ton because it has a bucket seat, and I just get old and I don't really want to drive something with a bucket seat all the time. And it was also having those misfiring issues, so I wasn't driving a ton for that. So let's review this car real quick. The best thing about this car is that it's basically like the S16 Nissan or S17 Nissan, if you count the C5 Vet as an S16. Comes with an LS2 in it. It has some LS3 heads and parts on it. So it makes like 450 wheel maybe. So the drivetrain is fantastic. I actually wish the drivetrain was completely stock, because there's little things like this aftermarket intake that we have that has some weird air filter in it that didn't fit. I went to the store to go to another air filter just now. That didn't fit, and then I realized, wait a second, this isn't all stock stuff, because we didn't really notice that sticker on it, and I don't know what a stock airbox for a Corvette looks like. So now I need to order an air filter online for this box and hope it gets here and is the correct filter. The angle kit ended up being fantastic. I've had literally no problems with this angle kit. That is all the angle the car has. I think it's all the angle. Let's see. I don't want to mess with it too much while he's underneath it, but it's plenty for drifting. Works out great. Has BC Racing coilovers on it. Have no complaints with the BC Racing coilovers or the angle kit whatsoever. All the control arms are stock and stuff. The only suspension problem I've had was this loosened up, and it has an eccentric bolt on it, like an eccentric washer, and this control arm moved out a little bit, and it changed the alignment significantly. So it changed the toe a huge amount on one side while I was doing a track day. But all I did was get back under there, realign the car by eye, tighten it back up, and that was it. And I think that is the only suspension problem we've had on the car. The transmission is questionable. It's probably gonna blow up soon. It got stuck in gear, so it had like some shrapnel in it that probably got stuck in gear. What else? But I'm still driving on that thing. I did originally have the clutch go bad. Right when we got the car, the clutch was already bad. Replaced it with a spec clutch, who is a sponsor. Have had no clutch problems since then, which is good because you do not want to have to change clutches on a Corvette often because it's a lot of work. The car, when I got it, did have a broken diff, so we have replaced the diff. It actually never broke, and I did drive on it for multiple events. It had a hole in the case and literally had no fluid, but I just figured just keep driving it. But we did replace that. It never quit working, but it did have a big hole in the case. I think that's basically it. I have fouled some plugs out. I did change some plug wires. Mark was just pulling some stuff apart and was finding like a really dirty mass airflow sensor, things like that. And now we're going with a bigger radiator, which is laying around here somewhere. I can show you that in a minute. What else, Mark? Anything to think about?
Did you already say that airbox seal was getting sucked into the engine?
Oh, yeah, I didn't actually say that. So this, we hadn't really had all this stuff apart much. This was actually getting sucked through all the intake piping because they had used it as a some type of seal right here, and it was getting sucked through. I don't really have to show you. Anyways, it was getting sucked through there and was going through the mass airflow sensor. So that might have been some of our problems too, making it run poorly. This car has been cool. I really like it. We have had some little issues with it. All of them were basically because it was a molested car when I got it for a very cheap price. And when you buy something like that, that's, you know, basically a beat up race car type thing, you need to be knowledgeable enough to be able to deal with all the issues. And we were really not, even though it was something super simple like an ABS plug. If you were to buy an unmolested Corvette and do these same modifications and maybe pay a little bit more for it, I think you would have so little issues with the car. I would really say, like, you should do it. This thing has been absolutely fantastic, except for some really small things. And really, in the grand scheme of things, like, they're not big problems. Like, if you're gonna, like, rod knock a car or have rocker arms come off, or, you know, have some huge deal like that, that's gonna be a big problem. Having a plug not plugged in was just our fault for not finding it fast enough, because you could do that on a 350Z, have something not plugged in properly or grounded or something like that. It's not really the car's fault. The car's been really good, and I would definitely suggest you get one of these things. If you know, like, you like it. I really do. What else? A few things to note. I did switch over in the end to an 18 by 9.5 plus 35 wheel combination all the way around, so everything's square, with a 265 35 18 Kenda up front and in back. So I'm running the same tires and wheels up front and back. The back does not have a spacer. The front does have about, blocking my own light, I think an 1.5 inch spacer. It does stick out significantly when the wheels are pointed straight. Probably sticks out like that far. Oh, exactly that far. Kind of a lot for some people. As a drift car, I don't mind it at all. Doesn't have any like clearance fin like issues up here or anything else. We did cut this a lot though, if you watch the build video. Anything else to say, Mark?
Don't drift, it's dumb.
Don't drift, it's dumb. Well, if you're going to drift.
No, go to drifty bits, but don't drift.
Oh, Mark, you've driven this car. Did you like it?
I love it.
Yeah?
It's
Would you suggest like this is a real good drift car people should buy?
I would.
You would?
I would rather have the S14, but
You're talking about the V8 S14 that has a cage and like lighter weight and all that type of stuff.
I don't even care about the rest of the stuff. Just the V8, and that thing is awesome. But this
it's
thing
literally
is,
the same V8 as this thing.
But this one doesn't run.
Oh. Oh, but you drove it when it did run.
I did, and it was good. It drove really good, just like any other S chassis with power.
In the S14's defense, it ran worse than this thing when we got it. Isn't that accurate?
I don't know. I didn't drive it.
And you made it work.
I didn't drive it. I only drove it once it was good.
But you drove it into the, like, you had to start it and drive it into your shop at the very least. It was not running correctly.
I don't remember doing that.
Oh. Okay, anyways. He wants the S14.
I'm stupid, though.
Yeah, I actually do. I have to agree with him. I do really, really like that S14. A 240SX that's like super built up and everything is such a good drift car. I've never faulted them for being bad drift cars or not. I enjoy them. Obviously, they win Formula D. They're excellent cars. We all love them. The only problem with them is for an average drifter or someone like that's myself that's not a mechanic, they are a lot of upkeep sometimes. They're a lot to build. It can take an entire year or two to build one sometimes, especially like a Pro-Am type build. And this car was literally 2 days of putting together. I mean, it's a completely different metric. And then months of figuring out why that ABS connector wasn't plugged in. Stupid cars. Okay, again, sorry it's not washed. I'll take you on a shop tour real quick again. My rock crawler Jeep sits out there, never doing anything. It just sits. Let's zoom in. Yep, that's that. Never touch it. What else? True's S13 has made 0 progress in the last, I don't know, 6 months. It sits there with the stock 1JZ VVTi sitting in it. My S13 sits all the time. I probably need to sell that SR. This is the right-hand drive S13. It's a pretty cool car. It's really, really fun to drive. Patrick is currently finishing his car. He's getting all the body work done and everything. Looks like a reveal video because you can't see everything. So Patrick's car will be done soon. There's some cool cars in the shop, like this old turbo Porsche that probably makes like 400 or 500 wheel. There's a V6 Turbo Integra. That's interesting. The Tyler Cox Memorial car. It runs and everything, just kind of pulled apart still. There's a turbo Corvette here. There's a GTR. Oh, I should say these are not my cars. I just think they're kind of cool. Because it's always interesting to see what's like in the shop. And that's it. So thank you very much. I hope you had a great night. Goodbye.